Like a storm growing across the horizon, there's a reckoning coming like Judgment Day. Finally we've been awakened from this nightmare. Voice upon voice, like a crashing wave. Can you hear us now? Can you hear us now? The soul of freedom is crying out. Can you hear us now? When I see those innocent tiny faces, I wonder if freedom will have a chance to give them the blessings I've been given. They are the reason that we stand. Can you hear us now? Can you hear us now? The soul of freedom is crying out. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Resurrect the Republic, Truth Radio broadcast. Republic Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Tom Lacavera Stewart. We're with Lori Anderson, Eric Hughes, and on the line, carrying over from the last hour, we have one of my favorite people from Bunkerville, Vincent Easley, who's been on the ground also covering this trial, and he amazingly captured Suckling, Mr. Suckling, from the Center for Biological Diversity, and just it was a priceless interview. We just released the video on this, and it's taking off already on rtrtruthmedia.blogspot.com. And I'm going to have him tell you how you can link to his stuff, because I tell you what, this boots on the ground alternative media presence, you will get the rich information of what's really going on the ground with these people that show up, that the mainstream media will never give you. And it just it warms my heart, because this is what's going to really blow the lid off the information wars. Folks like Vincent Easley. Vince, welcome to the show.
Hey Tom, how you doing?
Oh, I'm blessed. Good job today, buddy.
Well, I wonder. I'll have to watch the whole video. I probably. Well, they moved down there with the banner in front of everybody, so we all rallied together and got in front of them. But there was a little bit of shouting. Of course, he had the bullhorn, so I think he might have been a little bit louder.
Well, your interview that you did with him couldn't have been better. All of the blowhard bullhorning that he did there only affected a couple ears. But what he did was he gave you some sound bites that were perfect. And in the video that we released, and please do this if you feel so compelled to take our video and upload it to your channel or your Facebook or whatever. And what I did was I added some documentation to it. I added, of course, the Marxist angle, the attack on our very core principles, and some background to Marx with it too, so that people understand exactly what we're fighting here. So anyway, just really great job there. The shofar blew and they scattered like ants, and so all of their bullhorning is going to come back to bite him in the rear end,
like cockroaches.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of looked like they was adding to our support a little bit after a bunch of people filled in and piled in around them. But there was some good education going on. Josh Martinez, he really knows his stuff. There's other folks there that were giving them some what for. Now, of course, a lot of people would take this as true science, but I think a lot of these studies, they're funded, so they're gonna have a bias in their outcome. And I was listening to y'all talk earlier, and I know that we know how the tortoise has actually benefited. And so he challenged me for some scientific studies, so I'll be doing that. And the folks over on Twitter that come over to troll me, I appreciate it. Actually, keeps me on my toes and keeps me honest. So I'll respond, I guess, to them as well, and in part
we'll help.
Here.
We'll help.
Yeah.
Yep, we can help with that because there was a gentleman that actually was out in Burns, Oregon with those scientific studies that spoke in Burns, Oregon.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the guy, right, Tom?
Well, that's Suckling, but there was also
no, I'm not. I'm talking about.
There's folks that came out. I know what you're talking about. There's folks that came out with the truth. Men of science that have supporting truth that backs up our position. Of course, it's not a position. It's just what it is. You can go out there. See, people from all over the country, they hear about the scofflaw rancher and how the poor little tortoises, all this stuff. But, they've never put their boots there like you and I have. We've been there. And what I saw when Cliven took me out along the edge of that river to do some repairs to one of the irrigation channels is I saw this real thick, lush vegetation and an environment that when you redirect the water, it hydrates the bank and it creates a habitat that these things thrive in. So, whether or not the desert tortoise they say that the numbers have declined in the past so many hundred years. Even the science into that is a little shaky. Okay, because first of all, the desert tortoise wasn't being studied 500 years ago, and if they are declining, well, I don't know, but these same people that are progenitors of science also believe in the theory of evolution and natural selection, and nobody has yet to give me an example of how the desert tortoise is a species that isn't meant. I mean, let's go with their claims for a second. Okay, let's ignore the facts that we know that they thrive in this environment, and let's just say that they were dying off. They're not like bees. They don't pollinate. They don't. I mean, would it be a shame? Yeah, but what we've done is we've turned everything upside down. Instead of man having dominion over the earth, they would like to bring in this Gaian Luciferian ideology where the earth has dominion over man. It's the antithesis of everything that we're taught. Now, of course, like you said in your interview with Suckling, we don't believe in intentionally harming any creatures that are out there. I wouldn't, I don't go hunting unless I'm hungry. I don't go hunting, but that's my personal decision. That's how I live my life. So that being said, you don't have ranchers out there just destroying. They're creating these habitats, but even their own science, they contradict themselves. Their hypocrisy is thick. They'll tell you evolution, natural selection, and then, but the endangered species. Okay, well, the species is dying out. What does it have to offer the rest of the planet? What is it if we lose this one offshoot? I mean, is it all the turtles? No, it's this one small species here and they use that diversity that Marx long ago pushed to get control over the land, and that's what it's really about. Because they're out there trespassing on the people's land. Okay, what do you want to do with it? We want to reclaim it. Reclaim it for who? For what? People need to live. And that's all these people do is they destroy property rights, they destroy families, they destroy economies. What's happening with the what is that? Grant County, Oregon, and these other places where these towns that used to be thriving communities are now in abject poverty on government assistance. It's insane. But anyway, I mean, I'll get off my soapbox, but still. You did a good job today, bro. I enjoyed seeing that.
Thanks. You know, most of these people are, of course, evolutionists, and I've spent a lot of time in covering the evolution and creation debate.
Yep.
If you go by the evolutionary studies, even, you know, that supposedly then the tortoise had evolved along with these large grazing animals, the buffalo among them, and then if you go back into the, you know, when the mammoth and the other big animals were running.
Sure.
Yeah, so they evolved, quotes there, with that. So the same thing that the cow does is provide that nutrient-rich environment for other animals. For the tortoise, the dung, the fresh dung, is, you know, it's kind of pre-digested. That cow's eating what you and I couldn't digest and a lot of other animals. So you get the dung beetle and the tortoise, and I don't know what else would eat it. But I can tell you this, and you was lost in the desert and you come across just the dung and couldn't catch you a cow, if it's fresh, it is digestible for you and would be a survival food.
I don't want to think about that, but yeah, it's true though.
It is edible.
It's very true.
And also, so the cow is doing the same thing that the buffalo and other of these big grazing animals would do. They're browsing back on this vegetation, and the new lush growth comes out, and it's more available, more palatable to other animals, from the lowly jackrabbit on, you know, down to the grasshopper and up and down and beyond to there. So it does enrich the environment. So the idea that that there's damage. We go back some time in history, and we can see where overgrazing was a problem. People were competing for these, you know, the best grazing for the cattle.
Sure.
And, you know, so along came settlement, right? That's what law is. It brings peace. So there was law brought about to define the boundaries, and then that, you know, of course, is ceded by Congress to the state. So there is the misconception that this is all public lands. Well, of course, most listeners will know that we have discussed all this before, where there is actually the property owned, the grazing, the water, minerals in the ground by a miner and his claim.
Property rights.
So, yes, public land. Okay, now these environmentalists want to shut people out, and a lot of people think that's a good thing. I believe in conservation, and certainly I know the Bundys do too, because if they just went out there and overgrazed everything, pretty soon they'd be out of business. So they're, you know, they want to protect the environment as well, and I think it's really lost.
One other theory that, you know, I'd like to explore is the fact that there were 50 ranchers in Clark County at one time. Right now, there's just one. So if their contention is that it was the ranchers that caused this so-called devastation to these desert tortoise, and they've gotten rid of these 50-some ranchers, well, why isn't the population exploding out off the chain now? Why? Because based on their theory, if it was all the cattle, then there should be desert tortoise all over Clark County. Like, you know, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I know that it takes them a long time to reproduce. Yeah, I get that. But really? I mean, I try and get into their heads, and I guess I shouldn't try and do that because it hurts too much. I know what this is really about. It's central planning, it's collectivism, it's destruction of property rights. It's all of that. Like I said, I'm with you. I believe in common sense conservation, which the law provided for long ago. And you know, all anybody has to do is go out there to the Bundy Ranch and take a walk along that river and see the oasis that this family created there. It is a habitat for all sorts of species that you don't see when you go up into the desert deeper. So I don't know. It just it drives me nuts, the disinformation that's out there from people that are kicking this around that never took the time to get out there and put their feet on the ground.
You know, Bran Thornton, for one, there was a few people that went out after the destruction of the water systems out there and went to investigate for further signs of wildlife, and it was just so depleted. There's no tracks, nothing. So that water, that small trickle of water, which is held and conserved and been distributed over time, is a precious, precious thing for life in the desert. And anybody that's not familiar with the West, it is a pretty harsh environment. And there's, back in Arkansas, say how many acres you need per cow there. Now, out here you need, to figure how many sections of land. That's a square mile, 640 square acres. So otherwise, you could look across the desert and see literally miles and miles and miles of mostly the same thing, and that's the chaparral. Of course, everybody knows about the sagebrush, but probably doesn't know that it's not native to America. It comes from Russia, the Russian thistle. But anyways, all this out here is pretty much useless unless it's applied. Something beneficial is going to be put to it. And like I said, without all these big grazing animals that used to roam out here, the cattle on the land replaces that. So if you're a conservationist, you ought to be applauding the rancher out here that's basically taking little and nothing that harbors not much more than bugs and lizards, honestly. And when you get into the eco-environments where these other animals survive, it's a little more richer. So they spread out. It makes more habitat by running cattle. It doesn't take anything away.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, sir, I just it breaks my heart to see what these folks have had to go through or what they've had to endure over this time. No more moo in 92, cattle free in 93, states of a political agenda that has nothing to do with the desert tortoise. That's just it's the use of the moment. It's just they've done this to ranches all over in Texas. I remember they found this little hill that had a spider in it, and this ranch that had been operating for decades, and they tried shutting the entire ranch down. Then they had to. It's just insane what these people are doing for a spider in a hill. Saul Alinsky would just be loving this.
And let's not forget, if they control the food, because that's what the cattle are, is food. If they if the government controls the food, they control the people.
Yep.
You can look at the industry from hog and the chicken, where it's gone into these factory farms, and that's where they're moving cattle. Well, as it stands now, they'll move them to finish them off in a feedlot and cramp them together and put the feed to them and the fat. But anyways, it is controlled, like you said. Let me finish up here, and I'll give you back the mic, and I really appreciate you having me on, Tom. And it's
go ahead, brother.
It's an honor. Let me say, those people out there today, they're getting a paycheck. The Bundy supporters, all the people that have been so consistent there, and they're doing it out of their heart. Nobody's getting paid. There's some donations, and you think that would cover? No, people are digging down deep within themselves to do that, and I can't say how proud I am to be amongst those people. And my skill set is not that of those greats that I could name. And I'm not doing it for anything, but I'll tell you what, if I was getting paid, it was paid in full and beyond today to sit down to lunch with the Bundys and Ryan Payne and the legal team there and the supporters that have so consistently held together. And I'm just really indebted to all that they've done. It's amazing the sacrifice that people, especially the Bundys and the other patriots that came and stood with them to stand in the gap. And this was not a standoff against the federal government. The BLM came in and stood us off. Gillespie says, hey, the cows are, I got word on my way out here, the cows are being released. And, Clive and Bundy give them a talking to, or as I like to tell it, told them how the cow eats the cabbage. And, there was there was a lot at issue, and the Bundys wanted it resolved. This had been ongoing for some 20 years, and with no satisfaction. So they didn't come to round up cows. They come to kill people, and they were armed to the teeth. There was tactical teams from several different units from the Forest Service and the BLM and the LA SWAT team and Vegas.
Yeah, ABCDXYZ.
Yeah, full of
all the alphabets. Yeah.
And you know what? There would have been a lot of people dead that day had it not been for the hundreds and hundreds that stood in the gap, despite their fear.
Absolutely. God was with us that day. That'll tell you. Absolutely.
It's pretty amazing. And you know what? The hand of providence is so evident to me to be involved in this that to deliver the Bundys and the others out of captivity, where it's almost unheard of. Once you get in the federal system, 98% conviction rate. I'd like to know where that 2% is. Somebody just really dropped the ball from the prosecution, I guess. But to see these guys not only coming for the dismissal with prejudice and to see the corruption, the true conspiracy is of those within the government. And if the listener is not familiar, just do a Google search for the BLM's Agent of Love, Dirty Dan, and I'm pretty sure that'll bring something up for you.
Dan Love. Yep.
Bad man.
Absolutely. Well, Lorri, I'm going to turn the show over to Lorri Anderson. This is Tom Lacavera Stewart. If you'd like to support this broadcast, you can go to paypal.me/RTR Truth Media. We sure would appreciate it. I'm still behind enemy lines. I say that. I'm half kidding, but I am almost out. But we could use your help. We've been down a year, and we're coming back strong. So if you guys can do that, that's paypal.me/RTR Truth Media. And Vincent, how can we support you out there? Can you have some links for the folks out there?
Well, yeah, you could follow along if you like, and I posted there in your there on YouTube. I put in some links for Real Liberty Media. There's reallibertymedia.com here. And matter of fact, we're over here in the chat room listening to you right now, and me, I guess, and Lorri. And we was hearing John earlier. John's a great guy, fantastic guy. He's been really consistent about bringing the updates and information. Awesome. So anyways, reallibertymedia.com, and we have a YouTube channel, and I posted the playlist for the Bundy Ranch standoff. And I've been putting up videos there. We're at Roger Roots, Lysander Spooner University's symposium of the struggle for freedom. So there's some. Those are my latest ones there, I think. And I'll be working on some more, putting up Mrs. B. Stacy. She's put up the one with Roger
Mrs.
Roots.
B. Stacy and Valley Forge.
I love her.
Network. Oh, the Valley Forge Network too. God bless them.
Valley Forge Network, Jay Grady, and LO Space and K. So those networks right there. I don't have the information on my playlist that they do. All the updates from people like John Lamb, Kelly Stewart, Jamie Landon, Andrea Parker, Sergeant Moe. The list is long. So for sure, Mrs. B. Stacy, Valley Forge Network, Jay Grady, and LOK for their YouTube channel. So in that link also, I put a WordPress where all the links that you can find me there. And
I'll drop them in the description too, so that they stay there. Yeah. Good point. And share. We'll be sharing all of this stuff on my Facebook page, folks, and which will transfer over to Twitter, RTR Truth Media on Twitter, which is at Tom Lacavera. Thomas Lacavera Stewart on Facebook. We'll drop. I'll drop all your links there too. So, Lorri, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to have to clear out, folks. God bless you all, and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Mistrial and waiting to see how it turns out. God bless you all.
God bless
Tom.
you, Tom.
Thank you,
and Vincent, thank you for what you did today. That was amazing. I saw it myself and made me smile. We have seen this gentleman pop up many times at the different cattle battles. That's what I kind of call it.
Yeah,
so I just want to
good.
thank you for what you did.
Well, I'll reserve judgment until I watch the whole video and see if I come out the jerk. And I want to go look at Channel 8 here local in Las Vegas, and because they were filming it. A little later after that, we all kind of got into a little bumping, shoving almost match there. But I really got fired up there a bit. That it's just why are people against what is good? I just don't understand it. It's delusional for me.
The love of money is the root of all evil. And these individuals love that money that keeps coming into their private foundation. So, and it always seems to, no matter which aspect you go on, it always seems to connect to UN Agenda 21. And trying to get people, they're trying to herd people like cattle off of certain areas to get them to force them into other spots. And that's why I tell everybody this is the trial of the century, because whether you realize it or not, once they get people off of this land, they're going to keep pushing until they get them in those little black dots on the Wildlands Project map. Look it up. Or that is the goal. And those little dots only hold 10,000 people per black dot. There's not many black dots. So if people really look at that map and they realize and start doing the math, a lot of people are going to have to die for that map to be accomplished. So this is the greater agenda, the control and the manipulation and the stealing of land. And it's disgusting. So this literally affects everybody. And I just want to thank you for doing that. And I promise you won't be disappointed with your video.
Well, thank you, but I really need no thanks. It's almost like, I guess, maybe a duty, an obligation.
Right.
I started out in radio in 2013, and my theme was What Matters Worldwide. And I set out to find people as much different than I am as I could. And I found, mostly what I found was what we share in common. Now, the connecting voices part of me doesn't always, it sometimes fails. And but that's what I really would like to, present. It's where we're really connected. And a great example, Patty Beers, PM Beers, and Tom and I, we all met together out there in Bunkerville in 2014. And a little later on, I had the two of them on together and guesting on one of my radio shows. And what I did and set out to do, and I think proved very well how the two of them came together. We'll call Tom to the right and her to the left, where they came together. And that was, I think, for me, probably a crowning moment, a very proud moment for me anyways, of an example of that. So where I fail at, you'll excuse me. I do try to do better, but I don't always.
Right. Now, let me ask you a question. You may know the answer to this question. Dating back to when the cattle were killed on the BUNDY standoff, and I've got a reason I'm asking this question. I really hope you know the answer to this. Are you aware of how many cows were killed by the Bureau of Land Management?
The number 30-something, the lower 30s is coming to mind. And I'd say 33. We're at 333 Las Vegas Boulevard at the federal courthouse. But 33 does sound about right. And if I'm recalling right, I think that came from Ryan Bundy. But they were out there. Now, Tom was right there on the scene in his video and pictures. I think we're into a break.
If you'll hold, yes, we're going into a break. Hold with us, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Resurrect the Republic RTR Truth radio broadcast on RBN Network. I am your host, Lorri Anderson, joined with Eric Hughes-Jones and Vincent Easley. And Vincent, the reason I asked you that question, I want to give you a little bit of a hypothetical here. Let's get a little bit of facts out first. In 2014, this is 2014 reports. This is not current, this is 2014. Why? Because the standoff happened in 2014. In the 2014, it was reporting by Feeding America. 41 million Americans struggle with hunger, a number nearly equal to the 40.6 million officially living in poverty. Based on annual income, 72% of the households of the Feeding America network served in 2014 lived at or below the federal poverty level, with a median annual household income of $9,175. Why am I saying that? Because I'm leading up to this. Hypothetically, let's say that each cow that was killed weighed 2,000 pounds. For 33 cattle, at 2,000 pounds, take off 100 pounds, even though it's not going to be quite that. Take off 100 pounds for the weight of the bones and the part that is not being eaten, and you come up with 1,900 pounds. So if you were to give 5 pounds of meat to hungry families or individuals, one 1,900-pound cow would feed 380 people. So we multiply that by 33. 12,540 hungry individuals could have 5 pounds of beef and have been fed. Think about that. And that is how the government felt that it was absolutely okay to just slaughter these cattle for no reason, throw them in a hole, and then try to cover them up in mass graves. What is your thought about that?
Well, yeah, that's a really scary part, the cover-up, because they're armed like they were with that many numbers, a couple hundred, ready to kill. So did they come with a shoot to kill and cover up agenda? Mm-hmm. That's what it looks like. I mean, it's evidenced here. It's not just like they threw dirt over some cows. They dug a very, very deep hole, and buried these cattle deep. Now, not only the mere weight of the meat that you're talking about, you also have the genetics. At least 2 bulls were killed, and these were generational breeding. So that right there kills off that line. Some cows have certain traits that they adapt to certain conditions better. You might think of the Longhorn and how it thrived down through Texas and on beyond. So there's the genetic, and then you have the calves that were separated. If you're an animal lover, this was a hard roundup. All right, they just didn't go out there, and I'll tell you, let me qualify myself. And I can give you my own cowboy credentials. So I've worked cattle, know about it. When you're hauling cattle, if the hauler, he'll get paid by the who he's selling it for or who is buying. Now it depends on what kind of weight you want to shuffle. You bunch them cattle up, and they'll pass their bladder and on and make patties and so forth. But so the hard roundup, that's just a minor look at it. Okay, see how you kind of just scrunching cows. Now let's think about it like this. They're out there, and especially at that time of year, in spring, and you've got calves out there, and not very old. They're running with helicopters. No telling what all methods, but it was definitely hard. They ran them cattle, so they ran some of them into the ground. So we don't even know how many other cattle might have been left out there in the desert, how many calves had died. There was some rescue, anyways, of some of the calves, but this is just, animal abuse, what they did. And
where was PETA at it?
Right. Well,
I said, where was PETA?
All them cops and then them, what are them, contract cowboys? That's some kind of name. I think they used to kind of call them something like a drugstore cowboy. But
right.
They probably they can't even probably raise their head where they're from back home. I'll bet you those guys, if anybody knows them back home, they're probably shamed. But it was not.
Yeah, because real cowboys don't do that. Real cowboys do not do that. I myself have worked with cattle, and when you're someone who works with cattle or farm animals, or even if you're just, that's not how you do things. You can't even run them like that. It causes problems, massive problems, causes them to lose weight. That's why when cattle drives, they try not to run the cattle. They try to walk them instead of run them for the most part, because the more that they run, the more weight they lose, the overexhaustion they get. Just a lot of situations that are really bad for the cattle. And I would like to know where all these quote-unquote animal rights activists and stuff were. Oh, that's right. They're funded by the same individuals that the environmentalists are. Just saying, most of them, not all of them. I know that there are independent, really good ones that are not like PETA, but PETA is, for them claiming they're about the animal abuse to stop, they were nowhere to be found, which kind of amazed me. So, but I do want to go ahead.
I laugh here. I think it was Shauna Cox that I first heard it from. Called it the Tortoise two-step. So I've used that hashtag there, and then I also use that along with the Stalking-Horse. And I'd like to explain that right there. It's a false front. So what you have is like if you was to duck down behind your horse, the Indians say back in the day, and hunting antelope, because they don't know how many legs a horse has. Now, you look at a Stalking-Horse now in the definition now, it's where they'll have a false front. They'll have a certain organization presenting this idea. And, of course, if you want people to come along with this idea, it's got to sound really great. But in the same way that you see laws that have been enacted this last decade and more, like Homeland Security and Patriot Act and so forth like that, it's complete Orwellian. War is peace. And so the same manner, we see how these operations go, like this guy, what's his name? Suckling. I laugh so hard. That's perfect. A suckling pig right there. That's all I can describe this as. It's deception, really. Now, nobody's going to, I don't think, find anybody to say that, you don't want to be a good steward of what you're in possession of. The land doesn't belong to us, none of us. It passes on. We're only here to guard it. And listen, I lived in Moapa, worked in Mesquite, Vegas, back and forth my whole life since 1969. Been all out through that country on horseback. Back when I was a teenager, in three-wheelers actually back then. Good way to run your leg over. Boy, that extra wheel up front really makes a difference. I've been up the Meadow Valley Wash. I know where the petroglyphs are with the conquistadors, their helmet inscribed in the rock. Down the Muddy River. The old man in Overton that he's obviously long dead by now, and I can't call his name. But he, before Lake Mead went in, he was all out through there. He knew of all the sites that are now underwater, all over the place. And talking to him, I never forget, and I'm telling him of some of the stuff that I found, and he was just amazed. So I've been all over this country and know the people there, and it's good folks out there, I'll tell you for sure. And it's good country out there, and there is not any harm. In 2011, I camped out there in the Arizona Strip for a while. Cattle running out there. Until today, I thought they were Lavoie Finnegan's cattle, but happens there's a little further away, about 40 miles or so. But anyways, I see, the cattle out there. So I'm not just talking as somebody that has no experience. Believe me when I say they're wrong, and they're using the wrong reason. So, and thanks, by the way, to Hal Anthony for the Stalking-Horse, and he plays on Real Liberty Media on Sundays at 12 o'clock on the left coast over here on the Pacific side, and Behind the Woodshed on reallibertymedia.com, and invites you over to listen, and he talks very well about this system of the occupation that we are in. We can look back through history, and we've all discussed a lot of this before, but in fact, by Lieber Code and other methods, we do exist in our occupation, and when we can't hold accountable, and I'll go to Roger Roots here, this Leviathan. He says Roger Root says that his client is liberty. I think I just messed that up. But anyways, this is a fundamental obligation to challenge any perception of government wrong. And when the Bundys had to call on people to come, because obviously they didn't come with that many guns to collect cows, they come to kill the Bundys and a few other people in the area there, because it was an assault on the entire community. If we can't, even if, let's say if Clive Bundy was wrong and he shouldn't have had his cows out there. Would that even give the right to come like that to we're going to take your cows and kill you if you get in the way? Or
absolutely not.
Would it be well, hold on here. I think there's a problem, and I don't think you ought to be coming here with them guns like that, surrounded my house. And that's all been proven. See, that's all been covered up in the trials before. Look at people in jail now. Jerry DeLoomis, another 7 years maybe to go. A great man. There's a lot of good people out there, and they came for the right reason, and that is to say no. No, you're not going to do this. We're going to stand in a gap. We're going to stand in the middle and be a buffer. You don't have the right to come with guns. This isn't Nazi Germany, or this isn't Stalinist Russia. This is America.
And it violates the posse comitatus. Just because you're not specifically active U.S. military, it's still a standing army, what they had out there, whether it's U.S. Army or not, or military or not, it's still a standing army. That's what was there. It was a standing army. Those individuals that went out to the Bundy situation and the way that they were armed and the way they had the drones and the automatic weapons and semi-automatic weapons and the snipers and the MRAPs and the SWAT teams and the drones and everything else that they were doing, the phone jammings and all of that, they were better equipped against our own people than our military are overseas in Iraq. That's fact. And people need to really think about that. It is not okay. Even Judge Andrew Napolitano back in 2014 when this was going on, just like he said, if they did owe that money, they could have simply put a lien on Cliven Bundy's ranch when he passed away. Then they could deal with that lien on that property. But as we all know, nobody, we are not, and when I say we, I mean every individual person in the United States of America, no matter what side you claim you're on, left, right, whatever, should never, ever allow another Waco to happen. That was a violation of posse comitatus. That was also militaristic. They burned 70-something people alive. Women, men, children that were unarmed, some of them. Some of them were armed. And you know what? They had a right to be. Did you see how they came after them? With tanks, with helicopters. They fired upon them first. They set them on fire and burned them alive. We weren't willing to allow that to happen again. Not another Waco, not another Ruby Ridge. And it doesn't matter if we agree or disagree when it comes to certain issues. The fact of the matter is, human life matters. Your life matters. Everybody's life matters. And they do not have the extrajudicial right to go out there and kill somebody because they don't get their way. And I still haven't figured out how they have justified somebody, quote-unquote, trespassing on public land. Public is public. I'm just saying. So how do you trespass on public land if it's public?
Well, the whole idea of closing it off would, in fact, in what I'm saying today, exclude the public from the land. And it is theft. Mm-hmm. It's taking and it's robbing the wealth, and they're pawning it off because the collapse of the Fed note, the Federal Reserve note that we call money, it's, you know, all this debt's owed out. And so they have to make pledges. And along the way, you know, they're making money. The people doing the dirty dealing, the backdoor dealings, and their agents that carry it out by force, like Dirty Dan Love, Harry Reid. It profits from, there's a lot of information on all these connections of stuff that's going on and connected, of course, to Oregon. And today I met LaVoy's wife, and I couldn't have any words to express myself to her. God bless her. You know, that they gunned this man down. Why didn't they meet them at the where they were going to speak.
Because that's a UN-free zone.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to be said about that right there. And there was also a lot of agents going on there that they're running this secret stuff like they do in other countries. These black ops are running here in America now, and it's not okay. It's not. These are enemy agents. They're occupiers. And we need to hold, at least, there might be some anarchists listening to me now, and hopefully downstream they'll share this out. But, the law is peace, and the settlement brings peace, and it goes back into law. So it exists at levels, and there's the obvious. And then you come in with different statutes, and then forget about going into the legal system where, statutes and precedents are set by case rulings. I mean, law is law, and it's obvious. It's not a concept that we don't all have built within inside of us, our conscience. Some people's conscience gets broken, I think. The hardening of the heart, doing the dirty deeds for so long, there's no good left in them. And these are some of these people that we see that are heading this occupation. And we're being farmed, we're the cattle. And like you was talking about, there's only so many pens being built. So, are you going to move? How will you move? That move is a movement. All right, that's what so many people down here that I've got to know. Amazing, and the dedication from the heart. They're really standing there to make sure that people are able to hear firsthand, not from this mainstream media. They pick and choose, and the reporter out there, they get their bit, and then it goes back to the processing center, and now they pick their little bites out of it. So that's what you get. What you're getting here, in this case, is people that are giving you the honest, straightforward truth, which is being suppressed and hidden. Why? Why should there be anything covered up? Why should the prosecution hide and lie and not bring forth the evidence that has been being asked for time and time again all these past 2 years? Ryan Bundy, why was still in the courtroom? He says to him, I expect my emotions to be taken serious. I can't keep up with this back and forth to playing these little illegal games. Stephen Myrie. And you know what? Lo and behold, he, along with Nadia Ahmed, both of them prosecutors in the courtroom, out there in Bunkerville in 2014. Another little bit of information I've heard was who was at the airport. So since it'd be playing post office, I'll leave that off. But we do know, because we've seen the photographs of Myrie and Ahmed out there. So what they did is go out there, and they were part of a conspiracy themselves, and then they come in to the inside here to prosecute. We see instances of the cover-up and the allowance of this contract cowboy roughshod, coming to ride roughshod over everybody Dan loved, and then let it, if not allowed it specifically, they turned a blind eye to it. And so when Wooten comes forth and he tries to bring this information to his supervisors, he gets fired. They come along and snatch all his paperwork and all that other stuff, the computer, and take it right away. And it took him a while to be able to get this information released. And of course, Sherry Duvall, Readout News, fantastic place to go to get the best information here about how they're working to cover this up. Other places, of course, Matters How You Stand. Doug Knowles has done a fantastic job. And I do have to say, kudos, best in mainstream, Maxine Bernstein from the Oregonian. Most consistent outline of what transpired within the courtroom, almost cut, like a record. So that to her, and then some other people have had, I don't know if I'll describe it, but other alternative means. So I'll call
Tim Brown
myself,
from Freedom Outpost has been on it too, and of course Gary Hunt.
And from up in but my mind blanks now, but up in Appleton, I believe it is in Oregon. There, I'll send the link out there. I'm sorry, I blanked on that. But anyways, yeah, lots of good information coming out, and people are reporting it, and it's being forced onto the mainstream that they have to come along just a little bit, anyways. And kudos to the Review Journal, and they brought that suit to have that stuff be made public. So I think that I can't remember if that was ruled on yet, but may have been or is just about to be. And I met Kevin out there, Kevin M. Cannon on Twitter. He worked with my brother-in-law 20 years ago or something like that. So it was neat to meet him. And he says, I can't have an opinion. I'm only here to report. So I, on the other hand, have an opinion. Other people have an opinion that report, and it's biased. So I'll have to admit that, of course, I have a position in it. So a supporter, reporter, but media, I am. And thanks, Lorri. I appreciate you having me on. And Tom, love you, brother. It's proud for me to got to know you and to still know you.
Well, thank you for coming on and sharing and speaking with us about what went on today out in Las Vegas, Nevada. Are you going to be able to be there on January the 8th?
I'm looking at that possibility now, so I'll know more later.
All right. Well, if you are, let us know. Definitely upload and let us know, and we'll have you back on the show so that you can help keep us informed with some real news from boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And because it's always important.
I'm sorry, I gotta say that there's no way that I can't be here. So whatever it takes, that's standing in the gap, continuing to witness, and so
right,
you'll be seeing me here on the 8th. I just got to know that.
Excellent. I am so glad to know that. And it is very nice speaking with you. I appreciate you having you on the show. And everyone, this evening, we are done for this evening. Please make sure to join us tomorrow night. As always, everyone, have a blessed and Merry Christmas. Watch your backs, check your facts, Semper Fidelis, and have a wonderful, wonderful night.
To take a stand, remember who we are. Remember who we are. There's a call across this land. Remember who we are. Remember who we are. We were a city on a hill, a candle in the dark. It started long ago. Now we have come so far. We keep our faith when there's no way out. Where does it all...
Hey, can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age.